This is Illiterate. My name is Evan.
My name is Taylor. I read a book this week.
I did a lot of thinking. That's it. I didn't read anything.
That's fine.
Welcome. This week, we're doing Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism.
You all right? Let's go.
Choosing a focused life in a noisy world. Let's get into it. Taylor,
Yes.
why don't
teach
you
me.
just tell us right off the bat? I mean, choosing a focused life in a noisy world. That sounds appealing to me. This is something that's on my mind all the time.
Nonfiction,
now.
we're going to get into a little bit of psychology, a little bit of science. Mostly it has to do with phone usage, which you're probably on your phone right now. Maybe. Unless you're listening to this on a computer.
We're reaching to you through the phone.
Well, let's just briefly talk about Cal Newport for a second.
Yeah.
He wrote two other major books. He has some other ones, but he is a professor at Georgetown, and he got his PhD from MIT in computer science. So he's a smart dude.
He knows about that tech.
He knows about the tech, but he doesn't have Facebook. He doesn't have Instagram. He's an interesting personality to take on and tackle this concept because he has ascribed to this practice of digital minimalism already his whole life.
I'm fascinated.
I think taking it with a grain of salt, though, like everything, is valuable because and he says this, that his position in life affords him the ability to do that because he's not a social media marketer. And he doesn't run a business that he needs to market to other people.
Right. He's
But
not
he does,
part of the machine.
Yeah. And he does publish books that obviously we have read and people know about. So he's able to do it without having an Instagram account with 25 million followers or whatever.
Yeah. He's not hip,
But-
as others would say.
And since he's not on social media, we can say whatever we want about him.
Cal Newport.
You could say anything about him. And Evan goes,
Well, I chose to say...
and deal with it. So he goes into this concept of digital minimalism, some of the ideas that he has about it, some studies that he has done himself and then stolen from other people. And then we'll talk about the strategies and principles that you can use that he recommends as well. So just to go off from the start,
Yeah.
he goes into the story of the original iPhone, the genesis
Oh, cool.
of where this all
Yeah.
begins.
All right.
And the initial reason it was created was it was a melding of your phone and the iPod. And it had nothing to do with most of what we use it for now.
Right,
The
right.
social media, the apps, the incessant texting, all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
He was even saying in the initial keynote address that Steve Jobs gave, he didn't even talk about text messaging or the other apps that you could be used until 30 minutes into it was mostly about, now you don't have to have two devices. You can have
Right.
your phone and your iPod in the same thing, and you can have a bunch of songs with your phone.
It was purely the shift. It was like, isn't this amazing? Huh, one part, two part.
Now it's one thing.
thing.
And that's all it was. And it's interesting that he started it out that way because he's saying we forget what the inception of things were and how you just slide into this other reason for things happening, and you forget, this is how it started, and this was not the intent at the beginning, and now it has become this.
I've been talking about this about companies. The companies just like at any. It seems like if I started a gas station company and it just became successful enough if it just kept going, I could be competing with Netflix and Amazon. You know, it just got big enough. They just lose all manner and sight of what they were supposed to be doing. It's just because they will. It seems really bizarre to me, and I don't understand it.
Well, it's interesting. I was reading something else this week that had to do with branding and marketing, and if you know the company Nike and you know what they stand for, and you can't even really put a pin on exactly what they are. At one point, they were just selling only running shoes in orange boxes.
Right.
Now there's so much, and they're just a general motivational, do anything kind of thing. But the interesting thing is if you heard, Nike is opening up a chain of hotels, it would sound bizarre, but you would also know exactly what that hotel, or you would have a sense of what that hotel would be like.
You'd know what they'd look like.
You'd know the vibes. You'd know.
Immediately I know, man, they're going as close to any kind of sporting arena, any at all. Like, that's where they start popping up. So you name off the biggest places. Like, that's a whole rabbit hole there. That's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
So he also brings up Facebook at the very beginning was a novelty. It was like going through your old high school yearbook or your old,
Yeah.
in this case, college yearbook and being like, oh, I want to connect with
Mm-hmm.
Sally again. That's interesting.
Who are people dating?
And that's all. Yeah, and that's all it was.
Right.
It was a whimsical thing that it didn't become the attention grabbing network of everything.
Yeah.
That was not the intent when
Right.
it started out, and we
It just
forget.
grows. It was like, oh, there are eyes here. There's attention here.
Hmm.
That's value. That's valuable. We
Right.
have okay. It's like when somebody, it's like a zombie like wakes up because of the smell of like red meat or something. It's like, and they just go in the direction.
Right. And so it's hard because it started out with just a pure practical intent, and it shifted into, oh, there are people behind these things that are crafting them like slot machines to foster behavioral addiction.
Right.
There's a science and a math and a psychology to it that was not there at the beginning, but now it is, and you sort of have to be aware
These
of
jobs didn't exist 15 years ago. Now they are actual, like people get paid to do it as for a living, and they get paid well.
that. Hmm. So the word addiction might be unsavory in people's mouths when it
Mhm.
comes to these sorts of things. So what he's saying is there's two different kinds of addictions: behavioral addiction versus substance addiction. We're talking about behavioral addiction, which is this low hum in the background. You'll see these classic reports from Vox or Vice or whatever. I was off my phone for 4 weeks and this is what happened. And people are
Yeah.
mostly feel this general sense of dread that they don't know what's going on, or they have a fear of missing out, things like that. And that is what a behavioral addiction is. You have the slight withdrawal symptoms, but it's not but there is still some chemical reactions going on in your brain of the dopamine hits and things like that.
Yeah.
But a substance addiction is a very different process and way of that becoming a thing.
Right.
The two factors that contribute to, in his studies, the biggest things of behavioral addiction are intermittent positive reinforcement
Mm.
and the drive for social approval, which are all very
Oh.
deeply hardwired
Yeah.
into our
It's
brains.
getting right in
So the
there.
first one, intermittent positive reinforcement. There's this guy Zeiler who did an experiment with pigeons a long time ago.
Hmm.
A long time ago being 30 years ago. When we're speaking about social media, the timeline.
Thousands of years ago, before the time of Sigourney Weaver.
Before anyone was doing any experiments. He had pigeons in boxes, and he would give them rewards for tapping on a button. And, you do the experiment, and every time a pigeon taps a button, there's a little pigeon treat, some bread, some Wonder Bread. They love it. And then he did ones where it was randomized. So sometimes they would tap the button 15 times and then they'd get something, or they'd tap it 3 times, or they'd tap it till the cows come home and there'd be nothing. And you would think that the pigeons would stop pecking when they don't know what's happening, but they actually pecked a lot more when the reward was unknown or unpredictable.
Yeah.
So that intermittent positive reinforcement is kind of like the slot machine thing. So
Okay.
if I don't know if people remember this, but the Facebook notification was originally blue, where you would get something and less people clicked on it. Where like it's now a red 1, 2,
Right.
3, and everybody has taken that red bubble concept,
Yeah.
which ties into the positive reinforcement. It's if it's noticeable that, oh, I'm getting a hit, I want to check and see what I'm getting, but it might be at random. The other thing that happens with that, the second part, is the drive for social approval. So that's tied into
Yeah.
the public display. These things did not have the like button, the heart button. That was not a facet of social media for a significant period of time.
Yeah.
But as you can see, combined with the slot machine of, I wonder if I'm being recognized. Also,
Yeah.
here's a accurate number, and the slot machine of, oh, I'll post something and then let me check it and see. Oh, now I have 5 people. Oh, now I have 9 people. Oh, now I have no people on this thing. I'm going to delete that. That lack creates a distress, which is hardwired into our primitive brains of, oh, if the tribe doesn't like me, I've got to change it up, or I'm going to be
Right.
excommunicated
Right.
and getting eaten by a
Right.
saber-tooth. So I've got to constantly be checking in socially with my tribe. And now that your tribe is everybody from your high school, which you would have forgotten about
Right.
dozens of years before, but it's touted as, oh, here's a way to reconnect with these people.
Right.
But really, it's these two main things. And like I said, it's not malicious or wasn't malicious
Right.
at the beginning. That's not what it was intended to be.
Is
but the
it
nature of
healthy?
these things shifted.
Regardless of how it's used, like are the consequences of it even healthy?
Right.
Are we supposed to be thinking like that? Is that good for personal growth?
So he
Like
says,
people
so
do
here's,
go in and out of our lives, and it is just a natural thing. Should we always be purporting an image based on who I was at that moment? I mean,
yeah.
not that everybody grows and changes, but it's just hard to come home and connect with friends sometimes, or whoever it is. After time away, it's hard.
Hmm.
So
And
it's
we'll get into some
there's a
studies
reason
here.
it's hard. So yeah,
Yeah. So here's something interesting. He says, would like for you personally, what would you say is the reason that you would use social media? Or what would you think is the what companies like why does Facebook say you need social media? What would you say that is? What is the value that it's providing?
to me,
Yeah.
yeah, to me, it's about being available. If you want to get in contact with me, I'm there. That I have a very
Hmm.
different view of it at this point. It did for a while feel like that's kind of where you go to be visible and go to engage and connect with people. I feel very little of that now personally, but
Right.
so now I'm my I got all the fingers in the pies, but they're not really where I'm like I'm not going for anybody's approval. If I post something, it's just because I think it's interesting. If you want to know what's going on in my life, it'll be there.
Right.
Those types of things. It's not really much of a feedback thing for me.
That's so
It's
crazy because that's exactly what I wrote down, and that's exactly what he says. Is
hmm
if you ask people, now that you know these things, if you ask people, what is the reason you use that service, or why would you want to use that service, and what Facebook says and what Instagram says is it's the value is in the transfer of information. Oh, my cousin had a baby.
mm,
Oh, this person is in town. That kind of thing. It is
hmm
never, oh, I want feedback. And you
right,
used the exact word. It's not
right,
about feedback, it's about the transfer of information, which you can do a lot of
yeah,
without a lot of the services and things that they provide. So now we go into the philosophy of digital minimalism
hmm
because you need to be in control of this stuff. A maximalist philosophy, which is what a lot of people unintuitively or without thinking adopt, is any potential for any benefit is what it is. Oh, this store has their own app where you can get discounts. Well, that might provide me a 10% discount the next
right,
time I go to H&M. I better download that app and sign up for the
right, right, right,
service.
right, right.
That kind of thing. A minimalist's viewpoint is they don't mind missing out on the small things. What worries them is diminishing the large things they already know that are good for them, which is what he's proposing in the digital sense. So the three principles that you'd have to get on board with, and if you don't like these things, then you're probably not gonna follow through
Right.
on this kind of pattern of behavior is one, clutter is costly, and that might not align with your thinking.
hmm
Two, optimization is important. And three, intentionality is satisfying. So for the clutter is costly, is the time cost worth the reward? He goes into Thoreau's calculation in Walden Pond. Thoreau had a
Mm.
very weird down to the cent chart of how much things cost him when he was at Walden Pond
Oh
and how much
wow.
he'd have to work per year to sustain that living. And there's not too much more to say about it except thinking about if I had, like I said, if I have every single app for every single store of every single thing that I do, is it worth the expense that I'm
Right.
actually going to glean from it?
Right.
And then with the law of diminishing, there's a law of diminishing returns when optimizing. So people say optimization is important, and then they fall into that trap where, like, let's say your goal and or value is I want to be informed about current events.
hmm hmm
Noble,
hmm
necessary. You could say, okay, well, I need to look at the news. That's great. Now you've already optimized
Right.
to a certain degree. And then you say, well, now that there's too many news things, let me use a special app
Yeah.
that is only the news that I care about. Perfect. You've optimized even more. And then you say, okay, well, now that I have this and it's constantly putting things out, I will only dedicate Sunday afternoons when I have my coffee for looking at that app.
hmm
And then that's it. At a certain point after that, if you try to optimize any more than that, you have significantly less return on
Mm.
that investment of your time and
Yeah.
energy because you might say, oh, well, maybe I need an even more specialized app, or maybe I will do it's like you're spending too much time on that one thing when you just need to get to a certain threshold, and then it plateaus
Right.
in what the
Right.
usefulness is from optimizing. And people get into this optimizing craziness
Yeah.
mindset, and that also stifles the minimalism aspect of it. You're doing too much for too little of a reward.
Right.
And then the last thing is intentionality is satisfying. So he goes into talking about the Amish for this, and I'll put a link to an article from Kevin Kelly in the show notes and in the email about it. Their thing is not anti-technology. It's about the intentionality of, is this going to affect our community and the closeness of that and being affected by the outside world? That's what their value system, basically, I'm generalizing, incorporates. And so they'll have some guy, an Amish person, who says, oh, we should be using chainsaws. And they say, well, test it out for a week. Don't integrate it into the community, but let us know how much this is affecting the values of keeping a close-knit community and being influenced by the outside world. And if it doesn't have a problem, there's some Amish communities that have a phone booth, but it's a mile away from town. It's only, landline calls, and you only use it to order groceries or whatever it might be. It's not, they're not opposed to it. There's a lot of Amish people that drive in cars, but they won't buy a car for the community.
Yeah.
They have no problem sitting in the passenger seat. It's very much, and to have that mindset when you're going about technology, not that you need to be Amish, but figure out what your values are. If your value is, I want to be informed about current events, do the least amount possible until you hit the return on the investment. Or if it's negatively affecting your other values, then don't do it.
Things get out of line, and you have to. It's hard to keep your thumb on the pulse of all the things you got, because it can get, where your attention lays is important, and you're not always aware of exactly what is actually holding your attention, because it can be a lot different than where you are and what you're doing even.
So then he goes into, we're going to get into the digital declutter process, which are the strategies, which I did not implement this, but I am thinking about it because, and you should, dear listener, maybe think about implementing it too, just because it's interesting and it's very little risk, and maybe it'll change the way you go about this.
It might be fun.
It might be fun.
Have
fun with it. I'm gonna have fun with it. So the three things that he says you need to do, and he did this with 1,600 people in an experiment to figure out the kinks of how it goes about. So this is his own thing. The digital declutter process. So the first step is a 30-day tech removal. And you have to set the parameters for what that means.
Okay.
For you.
That was my first question. I was just like, okay.
Right. So he's fluid on this, which is nice. He's not this dictatorial. This is how you got to do this experiment.
Cool.
You have to define them for yourself.
You have to make your definitions here, but I like that.
Yeah. So he's saying it's removing all tech that's optional to you, in the sense that it's optional unless it harms or disrupts the daily operation of your personal or professional life. Don't throw your phone into the lake.
Please drive your car to work if you don't work within walking distance.
Yeah, and for most people, it's just he's talking about the phone usage or the computer usage, or it depends. It might be video games for you. It might also be streaming movies. You might have to figure out a way to remove that because technically that's optional. Is it disrupting the daily operation of your life? Is that required for your personal and professional life? If not, detox, 30 days. Now, this is the part that he says you have to do, because otherwise, if you just try to slow down your usage, or, there's these articles that say, oh, I removed notifications from all my apps, and you don't have the blank slate of, oh, I didn't have this for 30 days. So now that I'm choosing to reintegrate something versus just scaling back. After that, or within that 30 days, this is also critical. You have to rediscover behaviors that fill those gaps.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't just get rid of checking Instagram and checking Facebook. Or if you're saying, well, this is not optional for me, I need this to reconnect, only follow the Facebook page that is the events for your college and only check it once a week when they post new events. If you feel like that's important to you and you're going to miss out on that, but don't do anything for the rest of it. But you need to, in that 30-day break, reconnect with activities that you enjoy. You have to explore and experiment and try new things and join clubs and reach out to people that you wouldn't otherwise because you're not seeing what they're doing online. And then after that is reintroducing the tech, which I appreciate because he's not saying, well, cool, get rid of it forever.
Right.
This
It's
is the way
like,
of the
good, you
future.
can live without it. See? You're better now, aren't
No.
you?
You need these things. There is, but in the minimalist mindset, how
Right.
is it providing the benefit
Yeah.
that isn't detracting?
Well,
So,
it sounds like it just seems nice to be able. It seems like a check on values. Like
mhm.
that's really the thing that's speaking to me here. That's really cool.
So in this third part, once you've done that, once you've taken the 30 days and purposefully experimented with new things, gone and done things you thought you forgot you liked, filling the time, having that withdrawal period, realizing how
Right.
lonely you might actually feel, sit with those things, and then
Mm-hmm.
think when you try to reintroduce this stuff, think about your values, think about what's important to you, and say, does it support something I deeply value? And then the second question is this the best way to support this value?
Yeah.
And then the third question is, how will I use this to maximize that value?
Mm-hmm.
So the example is, okay, well, I want to keep in touch, or I want to, see what my cousin is doing. Maybe the best way to do that is not to follow her on Instagram and like her post that she had a baby, but call her
Yeah.
once a month and be like, how's it going? It still fulfills the same amount of time, but the Instagram post might not be the best way to support the value of connecting with your family,
Yeah.
because hearting somebody's
Yeah.
post is not the best way to maximize that.
Those are all really nice. I really like that. That seems really. I'm seeing just like it's able to just get the mind gears working. Just because if you can have one thought of like, well, is this the best way that I can reconnect with my niece? And then you
Yeah.
start thinking, and then but you need that first thought just to kind of get it going.
Or it stinks to be like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
in my actions now, I say I value family, but I'm not
Right.
following
Yeah,
through
right.
on that.
Yeah, and it really a check on value is like, oh, this is the important thing. Oh,
Mhm.
am I getting to it? Am I getting to the heart of it? No. Is there a better way? Is there even an easier way? Is there, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm into it. I'm into it, Taylor.
I am too. So I'll just recap the three. It's you got to 30 days, remove tech from your life. That's optional.
You put the parameters.
You put the
I love
parameters.
that.
Don't fool yourself. Don't be like, yeah, I got to watch Netflix every night. It's necessary to my personal life. What he was saying is what some people did for this is because they needed it, but they didn't want to be removed from certain situations, which I am going to implement
Mhm.
in my life, is you can only watch streaming content with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was an awesome
Right.
takeaway.
Right.
Because then it only applies. Because if you say my value is
If
social,
you're not doing something that's taking you away from an experience,
Mhm.
like a social thing, or some other relationship, then you need to engage in that piece of technology because it is serving its purpose very
Yeah.
directly.
if you know your values. And
Yes,
some people are
if
saying,
you can
oh,
be
well,
honest
yeah.
about where that value is, yeah.
And some people are saying, oh, I need leisure. I need to get away. That's fine. We're going to talk about that in this is the third of the four concepts.
All y'all thinking you get them by now.
Already getting
We got
resisting
you. We got
this.
a thumb on you.
So the first concept that immediately comes up when you get in your 30-day detox is spending time alone.
Mm,
And then in parentheses, the alone means, for most people, alone with your thoughts.
yeah.
And that is something that we have not been doing very much of at all since this has become the forefront of our culture. Spending time alone with your thoughts, a couple things that it does that we're missing out on, that some people, maybe there's a correlation, maybe it's just causation, maybe it's the chicken and the egg, but things that come about from doing that is getting new ideas, an understanding of yourself,
Yeah.
and ironically, a closeness with others. So there's an app that's called the Moment app where people are tracking, and now I think the iPhone has it on. You can look and see how much screen time you're using and how many times you pick up the phone and that kind of thing. So he was saying for these people, and these are people that are already, if you've downloaded the app and tried to track it, you're cognizant of, oh, maybe I should be watching my screen time.
Yeah.
So the timing is lower. But those people, on average, use their phone 3 hours a day and picked it up 40 times a day.
Oh, interesting.
And then this gal did a study, and if you were born after 1995, the average is 9 hours a day
Oh gosh.
that your screen is up and you're looking
Yeah.
at it. Which
Wait, so
seems
it's 3 to 9?
Mhm.
That's massive.
For the people
That's
that were
staggering.
yeah, 9 hours a day, which in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but talking about spending time alone with your
But
thoughts.
what does it? No, I just mean what does it mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's not inherently bad or good. It's just, but what does it mean? What are
Hmm.
the true implications of that
And this is what it's doing, is it's creating a lack of time
with your
where your
thoughts?
brain is just
Alone,
alone.
considering the things it already has been presented with.
Hmm. Which is
It's not
creating,
like it's not
yeah.
like you process something immediately and you're done with it and it can be, it's like this is not how it is. It's not how your mind works. It's not how people work. That's not how anything works.
Hmm.
So to then fool ourselves into this constant hamster wheel of being presented with new things. When do you ever actually get to close the book on anything?
Hmm.
Hardly, if you're just leaving everything open. I want to die.
Well, this is in some of the studies is talking about where we'll get into this in the second concept as well, but that it creates an increase in anxiety because
Hmm.
you don't have the time to just be alone and ruminate and understand, how does this affect me? What does
Oh
this
my
mean for me,
gosh, yeah.
myself?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So some of the practices he goes into now for solitude, meaning freedom of input from other minds, just the input of your own mind.
Yeah.
Here's some practical takeaways. Number one, practice leaving your phone at home, which may sound scary to some
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
And there's different ways that you can go about it, or you can set it so that you only get phone notifications from your spouse or
Right.
your
Yeah.
girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. If you really, really can't,
We can find a way. You can find a way to take the pieces you need and then cut the rest.
it's wild because
You can find a way.
I was doing that recently where I just, oh, I'm going to go for a walk, or oh, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And I put my phone in my house and then
Yeah.
just walk for an hour and go to the grocery store and walk back, and nothing happens.
Right.
But it's interesting how much you're thinking about what you're missing, or what you're standing there, you're walking, you're not listening to things.
Well, I've been fascinated of just realizing that in my lifetime, I have witnessed adults go from my parents having, and the general consensus of the populace be, why would I want a phone on me? Why would I want to be reached all the time at any moment? Like,
Hmm.
that was really what it was. It'd be like, oh no, I don't want a phone on me. No, God. Now we have panic attacks when we don't feel it in our pocket. This has only been over the course of
And
25 years at most.
most people went, I mean, for all of time you were fine without
Right.
it. It became slowly the precedent and the default, versus
Right.
forever it was
Right.
not the default. It was, oh, I'm going out, nobody can reach me. They'll reach me when I get home.
Right.
Or, oh, I
Exactly.
don't know how to get there.
There
I'm
were
the
times you knew when to reach people.
Mhm.
That's what we have totally lost any semblance of at all. And that's why we have unions pulling their hair out because the PAs are running, getting text messages at 1 at night. Like
Mhm.
it's insane. It's like you used to have to consider the other person when exactly you're gonna. You don't want to reach people at dinner. In fact, it was rude. And it gave you a read on if somebody had their thumb on the pulse or not.
Yeah.
It was a real thing. We've totally lost that pressure button at all. We have no sense of that
Mhm.
at all. In fact, if you're not available, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's because I'm not being paid right now. Like whatever it is, whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
But that is a big thing we've lost in just personal communication. That makes us further apart.
So here's the two words that he uses to describe exactly what you're saying. The phone, to start out, remember the Steve Jobs 30 minutes in talking about these other features. The phone is useful, it is not vital. And we have forgotten that entirely. We think that it's a
Right.
requirement to our existence when it is actually not. And to
No.
start to realize that is not going out with it. Leave it at home.
Yep.
Leave it in the glove box when you go to the restaurant. Who
Yep.
cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
It's not
that
vital to
in
day to
your
day life. It
yeah.
isn't. It isn't.
And the expectation changed. Before phones, either you printed out directions to the Thai restaurant
Right.
that you wanted to go
Yep.
to, or it was just known that you were going to get lost.
Yep.
And that was a part of
You gotta go
driving, was
figure
that
it
you
out.
got lost.
Ask somebody for directions. But MapQuest was the deal. I remember printing pages out. And you do it, and you go across the country with just pages that you printed out before you left. It's a real deal.
Yeah.
And guess what? We got there and we got back, and we didn't get murdered. And I think millions of other people did too.
Yeah. It's just wild, the sliding slowly into, and like this thing, if you're born after 1995, you don't remember that.
Right.
So it was the expectation. Oh, this is vital. It's not just that it's a useful
Right.
tool. So
Right.
it's
It's the
reclaiming
only thing
it
they even know.
in the minimalist mindset of how can this just be useful for my values,
Yeah.
and then discard everything else. The other two practices for being free from the input of other minds is taking walks.
Mm. Mm.
And in the past and in
How
history,
nice.
that allowed for moments of solitude.
Put the phone down. Take a walk. God.
No headphones
I
in.
hear you, Cal.
That's what it means.
I hear you, Cal. It's just his big steps. I've been like on the edge of my seat, pens and paper ready. I'm just like, how can I just get some peace and quiet in my life? Tell me, Taylor, please. And Cal's just like, just put the phone down, please. Just go outside.
Take a walk.
Just take a walk. Just forget about it. Pretend it's 1979, please.
You can do it.
And then just think about how it feels.
And then maybe you'll remember what you like.
Remember, you love your wife.
He's a therapist. Moving on to the second thing. Don't click like. We're going back, and this is interesting for all of you who've listened to other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I found a reference.
Those of you with us on this journey, hello,
I found a
hello.
reference
Just shaking hands.
To another episode, your boy Michael Pollan of How to Change Your Mind, the drugs. If you remember the default mode network in your brain, which is what is running in the background, which allows you to get your keys and get in the car and drive and whatever.
Yep.
It's processing the information while you're doing nothing so that you can go about your day and you don't have to think about every little thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So they did some studies and they found that that network is the exact same network that applies when you're thinking about social cognition and how you fit into tribes and social spheres and all of that stuff. So when your brain is technically shut down, it is operating under the same network as where do I fit into the social space. And they found this, they did it with newborns, and it was the exact same thing. So it's hardwired in. Newborns have no business thinking about social anything, but they're trained. Okay, when nothing's happening, where do I fit in socially?
Right.
What's going on?
I was just thinking about this. I was just thinking about how as a child you have role models and you look to people for examples and you because you want to fit in, you want to be like people. I remember that being such a big thing, not just with me, but just with my friends' values too. That's where that was as a child, you were looking for. It's almost like we're all sociopaths just trying to fit in, you know. And I remember it's like, oh man, I haven't felt the difference that I felt from a child wanting to fit in to where now I feel very comfortable just as who I am and where my community and my tribe per se and those types of things. That kind of pressure is I was thinking about like, well, how long did it take for me to get confident and just, to understand a little bit about who I am and where I fit in the world? So it's that's fascinating that stuff is like that it is that what you were saying is it's hardwired in that part of your brain is going and
and so here's the interesting connection there is if that is an instinctual thing to think about social things in the absence of what's going on, and you never have an absence of what's going on, what are you missing?
Yep.
Social connection. So there was a study that I'll link to again in the show notes that NPR put out. I think they have the article, but it was some other group that did the study. But they studied people that had social media use, and the people that were in the highest quartile, the percentage of social media use, were also 3 times more likely to be categorized as lonely or felt like they were lonely.
Oh, wow.
And so the theory behind that, maybe it's causation and correlation and whatnot, but if you're more online, you're less offline. And you miss the nuanced analog cues of being with somebody and relating to that same thing of like calling your cousin because she had a baby versus just clicking heart and some feedback. That's not this. It's not synonymous. Right. It's a different thing. So there's this lady named Sherry Turkle who wrote a book. And if you're interested in this concept, check out this book. It's called Reclaiming Conversation. And she makes the distinction between conversation and communication. So the heart on Instagram is communication, but it's not conversation. Right. We've twisted that connection between what we're doing and what actually is occurring.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like trying to be minimalist through like we don't have to converse. We can just purely communicate. We can just project feelings into minds. It's like it
We're
takes
missing
a little
something.
more work than that.
Yeah.
That's why people have spent, since the beginning of mankind trying to put the human condition into words to relate it to others
Yeah.
so that we can feel less alone.
And don't forget that that was not what it was designed for.
Right.
It changed into an attention economy.
Right.
So here's some practices that he goes into to reclaim conversation as opposed to just communication. Number 1, don't click like. Silent on social media in the feedback element. And this will turn some people off because they might say, "Oh, well, why didn't you like my picture of my baby?"
Oh my gosh.
You know? But I think what he's saying is over time that if you value it, you will change that interaction to conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that person that is important will understand that and appreciate that a lot more.
Yeah.
I think so. This came out recently in the news. Instagram was doing a test in Canada. So if you're in Canada, give us a shout out.
Oh, Canada listeners.
Where they're removing the likes. You can't see them.
Oh, really?
On Instagram, some small tests. So I don't know if that's happening to anybody listening,
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
because they were seeing
that.
all this kind of stuff, the social impact, how it's affecting people, how
Good.
there's a lot more anxiety.
Okay, so somebody's thinking about maybe it's not healthy.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Maybe we're just making slot machines for 12-year-olds, and we shouldn't be doing that because now, that will foster at least a little bit better conversation, or as opposed to communication. If it's just the content and you don't know how many people like what thing, and you can only see the comments and you can only comment. The other thing for reclaiming conversation is consolidating texting. So some people do this with emails where they say, "Oh, well, I'm only available. These are my office hours for email, and I only answer them in the morning or only answer them at night."
Right.
Or whatever it might be. He's suggesting, if this is something that really bothers you or is taking over your life, or the precedent of it, creating a time to say, "I only check my text messages in this time frame and I respond to them."
Yeah.
Because it became slid into our society that you should be on call and available to answer anything, and the precedent was set
At the drop of a pin.
that if somebody sends you something, just because it reaches
you're
you,
unreasonable.
yeah, you're the detritus of society.
You're I can't say it on this show, Taylor.
But
I won't.
And I'll answer your text messages from 5 to 8. But
sign here on my friendship contract.
I've signed. Yeah, because again, it's useful, but it's not necessary. We think about the text messaging and how
it helps when you're under the pressure and under the knife, but like at the end of the day, any boss will convince you at any time you're under the pressure and under the knife. And so at what point do we get to stand back up to ourselves?
Or your friends might be like,
exactly.
"Why didn't you?"
It's not, that was just an example. Exactly.
But again, it's about the value of conversation versus just communication. It's truth. It's not a conversation. It's not replacing it. So you've got to minimize it if that's a value that's important to you.
Fascinating.
And then the last thing is, again, going with batching this kind of stuff, is hold conversational office hours. I think this works better for him because he's taking it from the teaching mentality of he's a teacher. And so he has office hours where students can come in and talk about anything. So he said one of his friends who works in Silicon Valley says, and people know this about him, anybody can call me between 5:30 and 7:30 because that's his commute coming home from work at night. And so, that's when he's available, and he finds he can get a lot of stuff done. And if somebody hits him with a text and it's like, "Dude, call me at 5:30. I'm free."
Yeah. It's like, and everybody out there is probably thinking, but it's like, but calling people is so scary. Like, maybe that's telling you something. Like, for real.
Yeah.
I think the anxiety, because it's an anxiety, because there's a fear there. I think it's something growing in some sort of offset of what's going on here culturally. Just because it's scary doesn't mean it's bad. Our bodies and minds are wired to react to fear and use it. And we use it like we use our muscles. You get better at things. You conquer things. And then you get confident at things. Just because you're afraid to answer the phone now doesn't mean you wouldn't be the guy making 1,000 phone calls in 2 years because he worked his way up the chain at this agent,
Hmm.
whatever it is, whatever the thing is.
And
I
it's a
just,
social signal, like you said. It's telling you something,
yeah,
and you can get away with not addressing it because you can text, and because you can like something, and because you can message somebody.
all these things have just slid into the
That's what
culture
yeah.
because they're easy. Because it's a little bit easier to do it. Oh, now I don't have to worry about it. Oh, it's like this big exhale, and it's just never ending to the point where it's like we're just not going to be looking at each other to some degree. It's
Well, I think we're
and it's
already
also
seeing the
causing
effects of
so
that.
much stress on the other end, and it's like, why? What's happening? It's like,
Yeah. Technically, we're in the best time to be alive ever,
right.
depending on where you are in the world, obviously.
But we're so stressed out because we don't know how to communicate or talk. We don't know how to conversate anymore.
Yeah.
Even that's the real thing, and that's
Mentally, we're in the worst
hurting
place.
communication because we've tried to distill it down to the lowest common denominator in
Hmm.
at any point anywhere we can. It was madness. When will it end? I'm throwing my papers.
So now that we've gotten Evan thoroughly stressed out, we're going to talk about the third one, reclaiming leisure, because that's
Mm,
what a lot of people use this
mm-hmm,
stuff for, technology. Thank God it exists.
mm-hmm.
It's a great leisure tool. So the question is, when you're in your 30-day detox and now you got to fill your time, what are you going to fill it with? And this sounds pretty obvious, or at least it did to me.
Oh, good,
But
another one.
it should be high quality, which means for a lot of people, and what it was in the past, strenuous physical activity
There
is a
you
great
go.
one. Prioritize demanding activity over passive consumption. Somehow we got in our mind that leisure means doing nothing. Well, maybe it means building a table. Maybe it
Right.
means
No. Yeah.
volunteering,
Yeah. Yeah.
creating something. The second thing is producing something in the physical world
Mm-hmm.
as leisure, the sense of accomplishment. The third thing, like I said, joining a club or volunteering somewhere. Real world structured social interactions. I don't know how, maybe you can illuminate this for me because I didn't really think about it, but
Mm.
how that changed where like, oh, it is leisurely to do this task. Just because it's a task to do and it's not a passive consumption thing, that is actually more enjoyable
Right. Right.
to put into your life.
It's like you said. It's like you like decided you were gonna build a table. It's like I want this desk. Oh, I'm gonna build it. That's your leisure time. Just because it's like I don't know. That it's a difficult one, but
But I think
talk about it.
because that void has not existed, where it's like, oh, if I can't do this stuff, because before you couldn't stream any show you wanted, you couldn't go
Right.
down to the video store, so like you had to do something. Well, I guess this is my leisure time. If it was
I'm bored.
sit on your bed and stare at the wall or build a table, you'd probably build a table.
Right. I'm
And
bored. What are you gonna do? Yeah. What are you gonna do about it? Well.
oh well, I have this painting that I haven't hung up. Maybe I'll do that. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I want to go hang out. And it doesn't always have
I
to be
never did
some
learn
fit.
guitar.
Yeah.
you know.
Or, oh, I want to go fishing with my neighbor. That's still a lot of work that
Right.
goes into making that
Right.
happen. But it's enjoyable and it's structured and it involves
Man, if you
somebody
could
else.
hit those combos and do like 3 or 4 of those all in with one go, and you
Mhm.
could just do that a few times, be
Yeah.
off to the races.
So here's some of the practices he says for better leisure,
Hmm.
reclaiming it for yourself. One,
Go karting with your son. Real specific, Cal.
seems a little personal. Seems like it hit home to you, Cal. Yeah. Get ice cream for your son.
Take Cheryl Flowers.
Whoops. How did that slip in there?
The editor missed that.
No, so it's fix or build something every week, which we talked about, getting a new skill. Schedule your low quality leisure, which is the streaming or the consumption. Again, maybe it involves other people,
Hmm.
but schedule it in. Say, this is when I'm going to decompress with this. And I think he did some sort of study or whatever. Honestly, 40 minutes per week, which sounds super small because a show is 2 hours.
Right.
But again, if you're incorporating it with other people, that's a better thing than just sitting on your bed by yourself.
But like, yeah, and you can even be on your cleanse and do it if you could go to somebody else's house and watch the Game of Thrones
Mhm.
episode premiere or whatever. Those types of things. I'm all about the combos.
Evan's all about the combos. The other thing, the combo, join something. So Ben Franklin,
Oh!
he goes into Ben Franklin, which he said, oh, I want to do, there's this group he formed called the Junto, which you can look that up if you want. But it was this group where he's like, oh, I want people to come together and we're going to talk about social ideas and interesting things that we learned this week.
Basically,
And
yeah.
everybody has to present a question to the group every time, and once every 3 months, somebody has to read an essay that they wrote about a topic of their choice. And it was just an exchange of ideas.
That's nice.
It's
That's
nice.
so nice. Just people. Oh.
And then from that group, they were like, oh, well, let's share books. You know what came from that? The public library system of the United States. And then he was like, you know what? We got all these people in town and there's all these problems going on and their houses are catching fire. Why don't we join together and form a fire brigade?
Oh my God.
Whenever there was a thing that he wanted, and that was his leisure, was creating these groups, joining together to do stuff that he saw a need for.
And now we have Facebook groups.
And now we have Facebook groups. Right. Exactly the same. The last practice. Attention resistance. These company valuations, just to give you a sense. Google, $800 billion. Facebook, $500 billion. Exxon, $370 billion. The attention of consumers is more valuable than oil.
Wow.
By almost double.
Wow.
In our current society. The average...
But it's a false economy. Just people's attention... Oil is a hard, it's a tangible matter.
Well, that's why I said it's statistic.
Oh my God, it's totally out of whack.
Mm-hmm. So the average,
we were screwed when we got off the gold system. No, I mean it's not tied to reality.
So I'm going to break it down for you. How even more it's not tied to reality. The average Facebook user uses it for 50 minutes a day. Now. Here's what's interesting, is recently they were under flack because of that NPR article that says, oh, people are 3 times as lonely if they use it more. So Facebook had to change their game. I will link to the article, which they did an internal study and promoted it about what's good about Facebook, because they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, you shouldn't use it. Right? They have to promote their bottom line.
We do, but it's the good things.
So here's what they said is the good things.
It must be horrible to realize that you created the Antichrist.
And you have
somebody's got to defend it.
Yeah. So they're defending it, but the way they're defending it is saying, okay, well, you need to be critical of your use. The good things are, like what we talked about, the social connection, the conversation, versus the likes and the toxic media, whatever, all of that stuff.
That's why they redirected so much focus onto the group stuff, because that's been a feature for a while, but they've not put any money into that at all. But suddenly now, I mean, literally within the last 3 weeks, the last 2, now there's a big focus on it. They got rid of some other feature, and that now groups is going to be the big, that's also going to do that. I don't know. It's I don't pay a ton of attention to it, but it's
The problem for them is
it's all your image. We see you. We see you.
Well, they see themselves, which their stock is dropping because their business model is to be a necessity, a natural thing, not a choice, passive consumption, the attention economy. Yeah. But if you're promoting, you actually, in order to use our service, you should decide where you put your attention. That destroys their entire business model. Yeah. And so here's the thing. Like I said, their average is 50 minutes a day. If Facebook dropped to, I'm just going to check what my group is doing. I'm just going to see that my niece had a baby. I'm just going to do these things. If it dropped to 20 minutes a week from 50 minutes a day, that is a 17 times decrease in the usage, if everybody did that. If what we're proposing is, you're using it as a minimalist only for its benefits and choosing how you're going to use it.
Oh, that's interesting, Taylor. Now, what does that equal in dollars?
17 times less?
17 times less equals how much less money?
Yeah. Which this is amazing that he put this in the book, because he said, they put out the study in the article saying that's what you need to use it for. And if people realize that, so what he's saying is, if you think of it like an attention services economy, they are trying to get your attention.
Oh, then they highlighted. What they've done is highlighted all of the false reality they've built. That's it. They've highlighted the gap that they have made out of nothing right there. And yet, there's a lot of money to be made there, except it's all based on nothing. It's all fake.
And it's hurting people.
It's hurting people's relationships. People go to their graves without fulfilling some sort of promise or, some sort of want in a relationship with somebody else. They're playing with people's lives, literally.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go that far.
Getting heated?
What
their product is a conduit for human life.
And this is what they say. Facebook's business, their message or mantra, or we're going to connect the world together, which has sort of fallen to the wayside. Or now they have to take 2 steps back and say, actually, this is how you should use our product to really connect with people. We're going to get rid of the toxic news messages. We're going to promote
It should be
family
more
and
about like,
friends.
shaking hands with your neighbor, getting to know the people in your community, getting to know your community at all. I walked around my hometown square this week, and my mom is walking around the square with me, and she's going, "Man, I wish I had come up here more," talking like she's dead, and I'm
like she's a ghost
no,
walking
I know.
around
and
the
I'm
town
just,
square.
and I'm feeling the same thing. It's like, man, I wish I had come out here and more. And like, what stopped me? A lot of things, I don't know, but that's a whole different. But
so here's some of the practice.
This is in there. This is all in there. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Here's some of the practices going off of what you're saying is, oh, well, why wasn't I out here? Because you weren't choosing your attention.
Yeah.
You were not choosing your attention. So here's some of the practices that you can use to help choose your attention as opposed to letting them decide what you're looking at. So 1, delete social media from your phone. This is a big step, but you're going to do it potentially to a certain degree in the detox in the 30 days of getting rid of these things. You will see you don't need to have access on the go. If what you're using it for is majorly for the values that represent, you can check Facebook on your computer only on the groups that you have and then close it. Or you can check Instagram. Now it depends on your job or on
because
your
I
whatever.
don't use them on my computer and my, on those things. I use them, or not that I don't at all, but I use them in, though that number would be a huge gap between how much I use it. It's almost instantly, it's almost always on my phone. And now what I'm realizing further is that when I use it on my phone, I'm using it in a gap between moments in my life. So when I step in the elevator and there are strangers in here, now's a moment for me to see what's going on in Facebook and Instagram, those types of things. When before I would have been alone thinking about the interaction I just had with the bell clerk downstairs and am I going to get to the right room and all. Instead I'm
Exactly. So the other thing, and this was maybe the most interesting thing to me in the whole book, was, so the way that he says it is turn your devices into single purpose uses. So when the Apple II originally came out, the way that it was advertised was, oh, here's this guy and he's doing his work at work, and then he brings it right along home and he does his taxes at home. And you think, oh, well, that's great, amazing. But the thing was, it wasn't doing his taxes at work and doing his work at home. It was one device that could do 2 separate things independently. It was, again, putting your phone in with the iPod. It's one device that does 2 things, but it doesn't do 2 things at the same time. It does those things independently. Just like you would have to have a map if you wanted to find out where you were going and then go. It's just, the whole original intent was limiting the amount of devices, not amplifying the amount of things you could do. So if you treat it like a single device and say, oh, I'm only using this for this one thing, and then it's done, which is where you put some limits on it and whatever. Or I only use social media, I only use Instagram and Facebook when I'm on my computer at this time. And that is what that device is for.
I swear, last night I was in an elevator and I walk in with somebody and somebody's already in the elevator, and both people then at that point take out both their phones, and I realize that I haven't. And I start thinking about this exact thing. I don't know. I'm seeing the evidence of all these things really creeping in and on my real life. And it's. I am wondering when we're really going to start talking about it in the mainstream, and when they're going to really. I don't know. Who's self-policing this? We've had one example today about somebody, self-belief. The Canada and Instagram. That's amazing to me, and that's like a shining light of hope for me, that it's like, okay, so maybe they are trying to really reassess to sustain. Because
Apple put the thing where you can check your usage, but I don't think, like I said, you have to remove it all to see what it means. They're not going to say, hey, don't use our products and services for a month. And then bring it back in sporadic increments based on your values. That's never going to be an option. The other thing, and the last thing for this reclaiming your attention, is dumbing down your smartphone. Like I said, it was originally only intended to be a single purpose thing, one thing at a time. So most stuff you can just use, depending on your life, you could use your phone for phone stuff, kind of weird and backwards, to go back to what it originally was. And then most of the time, laptops, tablets, things, they're small enough to where you can bring that along too to the coffee shop and only use that for your other thing. Like you would
probably
have a computer
multiple
at work
devices.
and a computer at home.
Well, try this out. Good
Yeah.
thing they can be anything you want them to be.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, well, today this is only my typewriter. Today this is only my iPod.
Yeah.
Today
Today this is only
the
for
maps,
gaming.
You know,
Or, yeah.
exactly. I have an iPod and an iPhone on this bed right now. I could decide that one is my iPad and one is my Google Maps, and that's it. Or, you know.
Or at this time, I'm only using it for this.
Exactly. That'd be a fun game. I'm gonna try a lot of these. These are really interesting, and I like the parameters and the definitions that you get to set, and just because don't lose your means of income, and like and at the center of it all is like engage socially.
And
Talk
none of
to
these things
people,
are bad. They're useful tools.
person to person.
Yeah, they're useful tools, but they're not vital.
Yeah,
and that's the minimalist mindset. Is not how can I extract any value out of this, but what is the what can I actually use this for?
What is the quality of it? Yes.
So the last thing he goes into, going way, way back in history, when Samuel Morse invented the telegraph. You know what that is?
No.
Certainly.
I mean, are you asking me if I know what the
yeah.
telegraph is? Yes, I know what it is. I was like, well, I don't know the story. Is there a story?
Oh no, I saw confusion in your face. You were just waiting.
It's like, no. Yes, I've heard of the I know the show. I know what the show is called, Taylor. I know you make fun of me on the internet. On the internet.
Secretly, Evan knows way more than I do. The telegraph. He said, "What hath God wrought?" Which is kind of ominous. That means, "What hath God made?" And then shortly after, they said, "Oh, this is great. We can have communication from Texas to Maine in an instant." When before that would have taken 3 days.
Yep.
Thoreau said, "We are in great haste to construct a telegraph from Maine to Texas, but Maine and Texas, it may be, have nothing important to communicate."
Oh,
kind of like with artificial intelligence, you can make it, but why? Remember, these are not what these were originally intended for.
Literally, like my literary mind right now is just standing up, clapping for Cal, right now. I'm in the auditory. I wish I was at that first look, and he closes the book. I'm just, my God, sir, beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to think about.
It really is.
He put it all together.
We really need some reframing.
I'm gonna do. I don't know if I'll do it this week, but I'm gonna do the 30-day thing, because or like with this, like I like posting the memes for this podcast. I can do that in 10 minutes in the morning and not look at the notifications until the next morning. Just do it that much, and that's really all I need in the social media world at this point in my life.
Right. 30 days is nothing.
And reconsider what my values are.
I mean, it could mean a ton, man. I mean, it should highlight so much about. I mean, and it'll be different for everybody. Where your values lie, what's important to you, and are you getting the best use out of it? Are you using it the best way? Is there a different way entirely?
And I think because I felt this, you were talking about how people are like, oh, the calling on the phone is scary. If us talking about this and me reading this book this week and you're thinking about this and you're like, oh, I'm immediately resistant to that, usually that's a sign that it's something you should do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I really don't want to do, oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Then it's probably worth trying.
That means it's good. Like, we've kind of lost that. Like, that might mean it's good.
Yeah.
Like, it might be really good for you.
Or if you think there's no way that I could do that,
I believe
then that means you probably should.
Yeah. Whoever you are.
Yeah.
All right, Taylor.
Cool.
That was great. I love this one. This stuff is on my mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like just last night in the elevator, no matter where, I'm just trying to always. Well, I was telling you before the show, it's like I'm ready to have some like folders and boxes to put all these thoughts I've been having in, because I see so much of what I've been thinking about in this, and it just goes further. That telegraph story is incredible, and that gets to the heart of what I feel right now. It's just like I feel so much more the need for my personal place where I am physically, in my community, and the people around me, the relationships actually close to me.
Yeah, take ownership of what you're doing.
Right. It's like there's a difference, and it can be a lot of pressure. So this was really great.
Yeah, have a look in the show notes for the practices that I mentioned, because I know we went through it all, but just if you want to recap, that'll be there, and in the email. Do you have any announcements?
Tell somebody about us. Recommend your favorite episode to somebody. start up a conversation. There's plenty of interesting stuff. That would be it. Just pass on. Just trying to get the word out.
And then next week we're doing Aladdin.
Ooh, we're gonna get magical.
Arabian Nights.
Here we
We'll
go.
see you all then.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.